This is the phone I'm going to recommend to everyone who asks me in 2026 for a cheap and well-balanced phone. That's because it's the Poco M8 Poco's entry-level phone, but it doesn't neglect any of the hardware aspects at any time that we might find. And in this video, I'm going to show it to you in detail because this M8 is being launched right now since it's the new release for January. Before we begin, this is the M8 model and an M8 Pro will later enhance some features. And let's start with the design of this device, which I think is its most important aspect. We have a device that surprises with how thin it is. It's only 7.35 millimeters thick, very thin. In fact, it's the thinnest phone that Poco currently has, and it's also a design that stands out because of the 3D curvature on the edges of the screens. It's something we've seen before, but in this case, it's very well done. So in the end, combining the fact that it's a thin phone and also rounded, it makes it very comfortable to hold and above all, ergonomic. One thing I've noticed is how light this phone is. It's so lightweight and comfortable that it sometimes feels like a mock-up, but it's real. I'll later explain this is partly because of technology they've added to the battery. But many of you might wonder if being so thin and rounded makes it more fragile. Well, the truth is, not much has happened. Société Générale de Surveillance certifications against shocks and drops, and it assures us that it can withstand drops of up to 1.7 meters onto marble. Well, it's something I don't want to try myself, and I don't recommend you do either, but hey, it's something. They have tested and invested resources mainly in improving the durability of this Poco M8. And before finishing with the design, I also wanted to talk to you about the colors, because we're gonna have 3 colors in this lineup. We're gonna have this light blue that you're seeing in the video, and that you'll see during the shots. We're gonna have a silver one and a black version. On the other hand, it has IP66 certification, which protects us against water and dust. And with Wet Touch 2.0 technology, which allows us to use the screen in any kind of situation. Above all, what this technology tells us is, hey, we're even going to be able to use it when the screen is completely wet or right after we've come out of the pool. To sum up this point, I would say it's a slim, beautiful, and durable phone. In short, I think it's everything we can ask for in an entry-level phone. And now let's talk about the screen. We have a screen that's surprising because it uses active matrix organic light emitting diode technology. It's 6.77 inches, has a 120 Hz refresh rate, and a peak brightness of 3200 nits. That's an impressive amount, and it's especially gonna give us an extra advantage when we're in very bright conditions, like being outside in the street under the midday summer sun. This screen will look spectacular and perform very well in brightness. Now, I should also mention that we have a very wide color range. We have the Digital Cinema Initiative's Protocol 3-color gamut, which gives us a broader range of colors compared to the standard sRGB that most screens include by default. In addition, we have 12-bit color depth, which gives us really good colors on this Poco M8. The screen features a fast, reliable fingerprint sensor. Just place your finger briefly to unlock the phone. Nothing to say about it, it works well. Poco on this screen. It highlights its certifications for visual safety, so we experience less eye strain when using this Poco for hours. Also, speaking a bit about the multimedia section, we have 2 speakers, we get stereo sound, and we have a volume boost of up to 300. For times when we're in noisy places and can't hear calls clearly, we can now do it with complete clarity. Now, let's talk about performance. Inside, we have a Qualcomm processor, specifically the Snapdragon 6 Gen 3, a processor built on 4 nanometers. This will improve performance and energy efficiency. We'll discuss the battery separately in its own section. Also, it's worth mentioning that this Snapdragon comes with 5G technology, and it's more than enough for daily use. You'll see in the footage that at some points, for example, it takes a while to load web pages with lots of images, or well, let's say heavy multimedia content. However, it will run apps smoothly. We've been playing some basic games, and others that are a bit heavier, more demanding, like Call of Duty with graphics set to maximum, and you'll see that it doesn't. Maybe not at 120 frames per second, but it runs them without any lag or frame drops. This phone runs smoothly at 120 Hz with 5G and everything else supported by the Snapdragon 6 Gen 3. Now let's talk about the battery, because it's interesting that we've reduced the capacity compared to the previous version, specifically the previous version. In the M7 we had a 7,000 milliamp hour battery, while this one has a 5,520 milliamp hour battery. And hey, why is that? Well, because in this battery, they've included a certain amount of carbon that greatly improves the weight. That's why we have a very lightweight phone, as I mentioned before, that practically feels like a model. They've reduced the weight, but well, they had to cut down a little bit. Also, that capacity of the phone, however, is combined with good performance and good processor efficiency. We're also gonna have a phone that will last us throughout the day without any problems. On the other hand, we're gonna have 45-watt fast charging. It's not the most powerful, but it's good enough to give this M8 a quick boost. And an intelligent charging system that will limit the charge to 80% to protect the battery and make its lifespan much longer in the long run. Let's discuss the camera system. On the back, there are two cameras, including a 50 megapixel one. The main one will allow us to take decent photos in all kinds of lighting conditions. You'll see, whether it's daytime, nighttime, or at sunset. It performs quite well considering what you'll see later about the price of this device. And hey, it's an entry-level model, but that's true. Hey, if you want a powerful camera, then maybe you should go for a slightly higher end model. We have a 50 megapixel camera that gives us good resolution, a 2 megapixel macro camera for taking close-up photos, and we have 4K video at 30 frames per second. Of course, we have artificial intelligence to help us with the photos, and a 20 megapixel front camera, that will take good pictures of us. I think they're good overall. They all pass without issues. But judge for yourselves, because I've taken a few photos outside so you can see the resulting quality for yourselves. Let's discuss RAM. It comes with 8 GB standard and can expand to 16 GB using internal storage. By default, 4 are used, which would be 8 plus 4, 12 GB of RAM, which hey, gives us a lot more agility when it comes to multitasking. We have the option to insert 2 SIM cards or 1 SIM and a micro SD card with up to 1 TB of storage. And well, we have some features that require this RAM, like for example artificial intelligence, which we can activate with Gemini by holding down the side button. It would already be listening, so we can ask whatever we need. Now it's time for conclusions. We have a 5G device with good audio, a good screen, a battery, and a camera. Well, maybe they're in line with the range we're in, entry level, but in no case will it disappoint us, especially for the price we're gonna pay for this device. As I was saying at the beginning, if you want a device that's good, nice, and cheap, then this is possibly a good candidate, especially if you want it to be cheap, an entry-level device. Now, if you want to improve the camera, battery, and so on, you could go for some higher models or consider, for example, the M8 Pro. All that's left is to talk about the price, and I'm testing this device ahead of time, so I still don't know the launch price. I know it's going to be affordable, that it's going to be accessible, but we'll leave it here on the screen and below in the purchase link, and more information that we'll leave for you in the description. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. If you liked the video or found the device interesting, leave a like. See you next time. Goodbye.